Hello everyone, welcome to the Take Care Man channel. I hope all is well. If this is your first time with us, my name is Todd, and my goal on this channel is to equip men to take better care of themselves. Lately, I've been talking to a lot of people within the wet shaving community about their need for support from the community. What I'm seeing within the wet shaving community groups and what a lot of people tell me that they're seeing, and a lot of people that have reached out to me individually, there's a lot of people within the wet shaving community that are hurting. A lot of people that feel lonely, a lot of people that need support around some really difficult issues. This is an unbelievable, unprecedented time. 2020 is like a bad dystopian novel. And y'all, you know it's true. With the election coming, it's only going to get worse. There's going to be more division and divisiveness. So one of the reasons I got into wet shaving is because I had identified a need in my own life to take better care of myself, particularly doing things that were more self-care type of activities that sort of fed my spirit and fed my body and fed my mind. It really took me into a place of relaxation and focus where I could just enjoy what I was doing shaving, whether it be the sense that connected to me to memories or actual face feel that felt relaxed or made me feel refreshed or feel new or feel invigorated or alive, whatever it might be. Wet shaving does that for me. It helps me sort of feel grounded and reconnected. I think many people have similar experiences, not everyone, but many people, that they find this hobby to be nurturing. It sort of nurtures them. So I think that need to feel connected, to feel grounded, is a need that we all have. And these communities are not just places where people technically discuss how to do the best shave. Yes, that's discussed, but it's ultimately about a love of a hobby that feeds us in ways that normal shaving, whatever that is, doesn't. I know a lot of men go into shaving groups wanting just to discuss shaving, but they start to find themselves developing friendships and supportive friendships with people within the community. They start opening up and sharing struggles that they're going through, or challenges they're facing, or illnesses that are happening to their family. And what's beautiful is that somehow the foundation of talking about wet shaving allows people to open up and sort of just talk about other things they might not otherwise talk about. I was talking to a group of people recently. I was expressing how I feel like we need to be more open to helping people within the wet shaving community. And that person said, well, you know, that's really up to their friends and family and that kind of thing. But what I've found is quite often people can feel less threatened by talking to people that they don't know that intimately. In other words, they know these individuals and they have something in common, like a hobby, but it's not as intimate as people that they see on a daily basis or close friends they've had or what have you. And so there's actually this level of comfort where they can talk about it a little bit more, feel not judged. That person may not know all their history. And you know, everywhere we go, we sort of take our own baggage with us. And all of us at times in our life have probably longed for a fresh start, going somewhere where nobody knows us. But quite often talking to someone that's non-threatening, that is encouraging us, we might eventually find ourselves coming back around and finding the courage to talk to someone closer to us. I think something that all of us are looking for and that can be quite hard to find is what I would call safe community. And safe community would be a place where you can go and be yourself and you can be supported, and nobody's going to use what you say as gossip to talk to other people about it. And no one is going to ridicule you for expressing something you're struggling with or something you're trying to do or some goal that you have. And some of us are able to get that met in the people we have in close physical proximity to us. Maybe we have friend groups where we live, or we work at a place where there's a lot of other people who are our friends and that we associate with and hang out with, or through our church. But for many of us, it may just be really hard to find safe community within the setting we're in. The particular community, physical community we live in, geographic community we live in, may be very different than us. We may feel very much out of place. So one of the beauties of technology and social networking is that you can find like-minded people to talk about things that you have in common. Now, I get how many people may feel a sense of loss if they connect with a community. Let's say they connect with one of the shaving groups and they've really formed these close relationships with someone. Each other are sending people stuff in the mail, and people are listening to them and supporting them and asking them about things in their life, like they know they've got a surgery cup coming and they ask them about the surgery, and then after it happened, they ask them how it went and ask if there's anything they can do for them, those kinds of things. But then that person may need more levels of support, and people may either be busy or just don't have the time to provide the level of support they'd like to provide or wish they could provide. So that can often feel like a loss to the people that are needing support, because they were thinking to themselves, gosh, I thought you were a better friend, or I thought you cared more about me, where there was never really an understanding that that level of support would be there. And the thing we have to realize is, yeah, we know what's going on in our lives. We know what's going on in other people's lives unless they tell us. And, you know, there's times when we feel pretty strong and we're pretty grounded. We may be going through some stuff, and that enables us to be able to help other people or support other people. However, sometimes we may feel so discombobulated we can't really be of support to someone else. Maybe we will be at some point, but at a given time we may not be. And we may be the type of person that's not really talking about our issues within that particular group where someone else is. All I'm ultimately saying is we bring different expectations to our interactions on these groups. And you can't really get what you don't ask for, and you can't expect people to do things they don't know that you're expecting them to do. Now, one of the best definitions I've ever heard of anger is frustration over unmet expectations. You might even put it another way, disappointment that someone's not living up to your expectations. One thing you have to stop and think about is, does that person you're expecting something of know your expectations? Do they know that you're expecting them to support you in a particular way? Quite often we may expect people to support us in the way that we would support someone else. However, we have to realize we're all different. We all have different giftings. We all have different expectations, upbringings, different types of values, different influences on our values. And so we all bring different expectations to every interaction we have. Now, I actually had an experience recently in a part of a shaving community where I was wanting that community to do something for me that was really outside the bounds of the mission and the scope of that group. Now, I didn't intentionally try to step out of those bounds, but some members of that community very respectfully, reminded me of what the boundaries are and why it was important not to go outside those boundaries. So I actually realized that the type of support or information I was needing would better be suited elsewhere. And my initial reaction was to completely withdraw from that community and be like, well, they don't understand me or they're not accepting me. And my wife, fount of eternal wisdom she is, said, you know what, I think you're expecting too much from this group. I think you might be misinterpreting. And so I almost lost the community that I was really enjoying talking about wet shaving with and actually forming some friendships with and doing a certain level of support with. But I raised a really heavy topic. It wasn't a political topic, but it was still a really heavy topic that can be really touchy for wet shavers. And I'm going to make a video about it. Don't worry, it's going to come up on the channel. But I was expecting people there to embrace it in a way that was unrealistic. And I was expecting a group that was actually intended for something else to sort of bend and meet my needs. And that was really an unrealistic expectation. So when we go into a wet shaving community, whether that be a group on Facebook or a dedicated forum website or a thread on Reddit, whatever it may be, we have to realize if we're going in there and it's a wet shaving forum, the primary topic is wet shaving. That doesn't mean you can't show up and be your authentic self. It just means that you have to have realistic expectations about how people might respond to you. People can't know we need their support unless we tell them. And we often have to tell them exactly the kind of support we need, what kind of help we need. And we have to ask ourselves, is that person the best person to give us the support? Or do they play another role as a part of the team that supports me to get other kinds of help from other places? Now, a big part of self-care is having respect for yourself, is respecting yourself enough to take care of yourself, to care about how you're taking care of your body and your mind and your spirit. I guess if I had to sum up part of what I'm trying to do for men, if I'm trying to help men find the courage to ask for help and to seek that help from the place that they can best get it. And one of the ways we can build courage is having people around us encouraging us, cheering us on to seek that help, to get that help, to follow through with that help. So ultimately what I wanted to say is that the communities we may find ourselves joining around wet shaving can encourage you to be brave and seek the help you need to seek from a qualified professional, and often can help you cut through the BS for all the reasons you're saying you're not going to seek help, whether it be a professional, a family member, a friend, a pastor, or a rabbi, whatever it may be, or even talking to our family doctor. Family doctors, general practitioners are equipped to help you begin to look at issues you might be dealing with. They deal with the whole person, and so they're equipped at getting you connected to the correct resources. Now, not everybody who is going through a hard time needs to see a therapist or needs to seek professional help. Sometimes they do just need general support. And supportive people like that can encourage you to take the right steps to do the things you need to do to take better care of yourself, but that group itself can't take care of you. Now, I love supportive friends, but I also like friends that will just not sort of feed me yeses all the time, saying, yeah, you're doing the right thing, you're doing the best thing. I want friends that will call me on my BS and say, you know what, I keep hearing you say this, but I'm not for sure if that's the best thing to do. Now, let's say that part of what you end up deciding to do is you decide that you really need to talk to a counselor or a therapist, psychologist, clinical social worker, whatever you want to call it. I'll just use the term therapist. Now, keep in mind, men, finding a therapist is like finding a barber. If you've ever moved to a new town, or maybe your barber retires and you got to find a new barber, y'all, that can be hard because you can get a lot of bad haircuts. The experience can just be just a mismatch. It may be a good haircut, but you don't feel yourself jiving with that barber. We just have different types of reactions to different people. There's just matches and mismatches. So what I'm saying is, if you go see a therapist, you may have to go through a couple to get to one that really clicks for you. Keep in mind, you're hiring them. They're working for you. Even if your insurance is paying for it, or your employee assistance program or EAP program at work. I find that many guys don't even know that there's an EAP program through their work. Not everybody would have that, but EAP programs often are separate systems of care that are different from your regular health insurance. But more and more, health insurance is paying for therapists, whether it be marriage and family counseling, issues related to substance abuse, or issues related to money, or issues related to depression, or addictions of other types. The investment you make in yourself for paying to go see a therapist is a pretty high reward when you find the right therapist that is well qualified, skilled, and is willing to work with you on your issue. Now, here's what's important to realize about therapists. They're trained listeners. Now, I know the skeptic in some people will say, well, yeah, but they're paid listeners. They're getting paid to listen. Of course, they're good listeners. But you have to realize that part of what therapists are doing is they're actively listening. And they're listening for sort of your own internal dialogue that you may not be able to recognize yourself. When I was working as a therapist, one of the fascinating things to me is when someone would come in, even for their initial appointment, and sit down to talk to me. And they would talk for like 45 minutes, and I may have asked them 2 or 3 questions, and they get up at the end of the session and say, oh my gosh, you've helped me so much. Like, I feel like I have clarity, I know which direction I need to go, and I'm thinking to myself, like I said 3 sentences the whole time. And that's because having someone who can listen and help key in on what it is that you're wanting to do is really helpful. And ultimately, quite often, people have the answers within themselves, or they're so consumed about the details around them, they can't see the big picture. They can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. So a therapist, whether that be working with you individually or working with a couple, can help you as an individual focus in on the solutions you already have and you've already considered, and perhaps give you the courage to act on those answers that you know are there. And a marriage or family therapist can help identify where miscommunication might be happening and help a couple recognize the solutions each other brings to the table. So I would just say, keep in mind when you go into a wet shaving community that what individual members or the collective group can do for you is basically encourage you to do the right thing with the resources that you have around you. But ultimately, again, that whole issue of frustration over unmet expectations, asking yourself, well, now wait a minute, did those people that I'm frustrated about, did they actually know I had those expectations about them? I also want to say that we can't find our validation through others. Yes, we need to have a sense of meaning and belonging. Yes, we need to be connected to other people. But ultimately, we can't look to other people for our value. We have to find that internally. Maybe we find it through our faith. Maybe we find it through some other value system. Maybe we find it through the way we were raised, whatever it may be. But we can't allow our own self-respect to be affected by how we're treated by others. Ultimately, guys, we've all fell victim to wanting likes, whether it be in our social media post or just in the way people respond to us through comments. We're all wanting that affirmation. You would think, okay, we're grown men, we're not seeking that, but everybody needs affirmation. It's important we're getting it from the right place for the right reasons. Ultimately, our self-worth, our self-respect, our validation is not coming from only a group of men who are defined by a particular hobby. This hobby we enjoy is great. It's a wonderful one, but it's not a foundation on which to build our lives or on which to identify what our true value is. Ultimately, what we want to be able to do is to affect the people we're around the most in our day-to-day lives, people we're physically around. we've all been socially distancing. So I think social distancing has sort of led us to expect more from our social media because of that social distancing. While you want to be your genuine self within a community, you know, there's that age-old wisdom of not discussing religion, sex, or politics. What I find refreshing is being able to go to a wet shaving community and not talk about politics. Now, there's still some people that choose to do so, but I'm not going in there to expect everyone to be like-minded. Now, I do expect to be treated with respect and people to be kind and people not to be rude, but primarily I'm just wanting to hear them support me in the hobby, give me their information, me share information with them. And I've been blown away at how supportive the wet shaving community is in terms of people sending you samples, people giving you products completely, like paying it forward, people rallying around someone in the community who has a financial need. So I've started a group on Facebook called Take Care Men instead of Take Care Man, meaning a group, yes, designed around this channel, but also a place where men can go and talk about self-care. Self-care defined broadly, not just grooming, but also physical health, mental health, taking care of ourselves as men. And part of what I envision that community to be is a place where people can support each other, encourage each other, where we can talk about a variety of issues related to men's health and men's wellness and men's self-care. And my idea for that group is to keep politics off limits. In other words, that's not something that I hope we talk about there. In fact, I want to limit that and not talk about that in a way that's divisive. Instead, I'd like to see people sticking to the topic of self-care, health, and wellness for men. And while I would encourage people to talk about their faith there or whatever it is that helps them have that self-respect or helps them have a purpose in life or the value system that they bring, I don't want to see it turn into a situation where people are proselytizing other people or trying to convert them to their way of believing. I think our strongest influence is when we just speak our truth and live out our life in alignment with that truth. And if that happens to be something that draws other people to that, so be it. But pressuring someone has never resulted in anyone actually having a true connection to whatever it is you feel a true connection to. So basically what I'm saying is join us over on the Take Care Men Facebook group. I'll link it below. If you'd like to be a part of a community where we focus on equipping men to take better care of themselves, which would include equipping men to take care from professionals, family, friends, spiritual advisors in their community, then that's what this group is going to be about, is equipping men to reach out and take care and also take care of themselves. So receive care, give care, be all about helping men be the best they can be and the healthiest they can be from a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual standpoint. And I would even include in there financial. Please consider joining us over at the Take Care Men Facebook group. When you get there, you'll see the rules. I'm developing them. I'll have members help me with the development of that. But I basically want to create a place where there can be deeper levels of discussion about actually seeking help and then supporting each other to continue and follow through with that help. And I have a whole lot of other topics that I want to raise about men's mental health. Ever since I made that video about clinical depression, I've had a lot of guys reach out to me and talk to me about things that they're going through. A lot of you are hurting. And for those of you that don't currently feel like you're in a place where you're hurting or feeling alone, you know that there are a lot of men around us that are. We need to arise to meet this moment we're going through. This is a very difficult time in our country from a health standpoint, from a political standpoint, from racial tension standpoint. There's a lot going on in our country and we can all feel a general sense of anxiety. In fact, one of the videos someone's requested from me is how do we deal with the stress and anxiety of these tumultuous times we're going through? And that's a video I've got planned, and actually it was the video I planned to do today, but this felt more pressing because more and more things have been coming to my attention. So I think we need to rise to the occasion and create a space where people can go a little deeper with describing the type of support they need, and then having people within that community help them find the best location for that support. That's what good friends do. That's what my intention is for that group. So if you would, please consider joining over there if that's something you're interested in. Now keep in mind, this is not going to be a professional help group. This is not going to be any kind of clinical group. This is just guys mutually supporting each other to seek out and find the best help that they need for them to take care of themselves. So I know this has been a really heavy topic. I appreciate it if you made it to this point in the video. If you have a comment about anything I've said, please leave that comment below. Also leave a comment maybe about what you are wanting to get from certain connections you have online through shaving groups, and maybe some good experiences or bad experiences you had. Again, trying to keep things anonymous and not naming any particular groups or things like that. So what I want to encourage everybody to do is look at the help and resources that are in your community. Yes, connect to people within social media and the social groups you're involved with online, including the wet shaving groups. Get in there and actually try to support one another to ultimately take the steps that need to be taken to get to where you want to go. So I appreciate you watching this video, and until next time, take care, man.